What's up, y'all? I'm Alan Hain, the Lawn Care Nut. Thanks for coming back for yet another week. This is the Lawns Across America podcast, first one of 2025. So welcome. I know it's cold wherever you are. It's cold here in Florida, too. Got down to 34 degrees last night over here by Bradenton, Florida over here. We're on the west coast of Florida, not too far from Tampa Bay, bordering the Gulf of America. That's where we are located, and we have gotten down into 34. But folks in northern northwest Florida, you guys got snow that stuck, which I think that's the first time that's happened in my lifetime. There was snow that came to Florida in the 80s. I think it was 1980 or 81. I was born in 1973, so I would have been 7 or 8 years old. I have vague memories of the snow, and my memory was that my mom took me outside early in the morning, and she had black construction paper, and she claimed to be catching the snow on the construction paper so I could see it. But I never saw it. But apparently it snowed. There was something, as a 7-year-old, I didn't see the snow. I could feel that it was cold outside, but I didn't see anything in the air. But apparently if you caught it on this black construction paper, the adults could see it, but I never did. So that's the closest. And by the way, just so you guys know, I actually never saw snow for the first time until I was 20 years old when I went in the Air Force. I ended up my technical school, my tech school was at Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indiana, the Defense Information School, DINFOS, which is now in Maryland, I think. But back then, it was a joint service training facility. That's where all public affairs training took place for all branches of the military, including the Coasties. And that's when I was stationed there. And that would have been, I went into basic training 1993 at the end of November, right before Thanksgiving, actually. And so that was 6 weeks. So it would have been January, February. I was actually in Indianapolis. The training was 3 or 4 months. I think it was 4 months, actually, 120 days. And so I was there all during the spring. And that's the first time. So 20 years old, is the first time I ever saw snow. So think about that. But anyway, I'm pretty sure the snow stuck up in the northern parts of Florida. There's people putting pictures up of them driving their lawnmowers across it, which, I understand. You want to have fun. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Go out there and have some fun and enjoy the resod. But I know you guys are all cold wherever you are. And so what I'm really hoping to accomplish today with this podcast is I'm going to talk some lawn care. I'm going to actually talk a little TikTok action. And in the end, I'm going to talk about the biostimulant pack and our 2 new biostimulants, how we're replacing the biostimulant pack 4 products with just 2 now. It's taken this long to formulate something that I felt was going to still support the programs in the right way. We're able to do it. And a lot of people have asked, Alan, can you compare side by side the 4 products of the biostimulant pack compared to the 2 products that you have now? Show us what are the differences. And so I go over what we lost, which is one thing, and then also go over what we gained, which is one thing. And then all of the overlap that we've gotten rid of, and this and then that. That'll be the last 16 minutes of this podcast. I already posted that on the Yard Mastery channel, so some of you would have seen it there, but I'm going to put it at the end of this podcast as well. So I'll mark that for you if you're just somebody that wants to skip and see that or listen to that. That'll be the last 16 or 17 minutes of this podcast. But today, right now, we're going to talk about some lawn care stuff, and my goal is to get the fire burning in your belly. What's happened is you've been sitting around all winter. I know. Listen, I lived in Indiana for 15 years. All right, those were during my True Green days and also my digital marketing days and all that. And I understand what it's like to be a homeowner this time of year. You weren't really thinking about the lawn through the holidays, right? Through Thanksgiving and Christmas, maybe you think about it a little bit. And depending where you live, you can actually still see your lawn all the way through Christmas in a lot of cases, right? And you're not having to mow it, though. And if you fertilized it like I do and you hit it with a lot of fur all the way up to the end, it's still green. And so you can really just kind of enjoy it through the December time frame, right? You can just enjoy looking at it. Looks good, and it's there. I did a great job with it this year. I'm loving it, right? And especially if you did a seeding or something. Whatever. If you got warm season lawn, well, then it just goes dormant and it's probably not a happy time. But either way, whether you're a cool season person or warm, you're kind of okay with it through December. But then you get to January now, and now all of a sudden 2 weeks into January, you're like, man, I really need to get out there and I wish I could be out on the lawn. I wish I could be out mowing right now. Oh, I wish I could go out and trim those trees that I need. It's not just the lawn. It's all the landscaping. You want to get out and clean it up, right? Especially if you have tulips or daffodils that are going to come up. You want to get out and get all the debris out of there so you can enjoy those. You can always find things. You want to plant flowers, which you definitely are months and months away from, most of you. You're just missing that outside, that patrolling your grounds, walking around your land, pulling some weeds here and there, moving things around, tidying things up, cleaning leaves, all the stuff that you enjoy about keeping your house tight, keeping your landscape tight like that, and your edges tight, and your lawn green and tight, which again, the lawn is the welcome mat to everything else. That's why we want it double dark green and edged up tight, because that's your welcome mat. And so that's got to be the first thing people see. That's got to be the most stunning thing that people see. And by the way, people will compliment you on things like your flowers. Oh, your flowers look nice or whatever. But if your lawn stands out and has massive stripes pointing at everybody, they'll say, oh my gosh, dude. Or they'll go, yeah, that's the dude with the lawn. You don't ever hear anybody go, that's the dude with the landscape. That's the dude with the garden. Now, people that know your garden, that you've shared your tomatoes with, right? Or you've given them your garlic or whatever you share out of your garden, those people know you have an awesome garden, right? But a lawn is one of those things that really sets you apart, and you know that. And so I'm trying to get that fire in your belly, because you're thinking about it already. You're thinking about what's to come. What am I going to do this year? How am I going to attack it? What challenges will I have? What did I learn from last year that I'm going to apply this year? For example, me, it's fungicide action and pre-emergent action. After 2 hurricanes and a super rainy season last year, super rainy season being a technical term, the 2 years before that were actually abnormally dry years. Last year kicked me in the tail with disease and also weeds, because of the fact there was so much water, so much rain. Again, hurricanes, couple of them, tropical storms. I think there was even one of those. 3 major storms coming through, dumping rain, just washing stuff out, bringing weed. And that's the thing these big major storms do, is they'll bring in weeds from all over the place. There'll be people this year in Georgia and the Carolinas and Tennessee. You're going to have weeds in your lawn in your area that are typically not even found in your area because of those hurricanes. You'll see. I don't know what they'll be. There'll be something. It happened a couple years ago with armyworm. There was a storm that came through, and it brought armyworm up and moved them into spots where they weren't typically at, and I think even later than they were typically used to. So that's what, storms wreak all kind of havoc on lawns. And so I'm starting to think, what am I going to do next year, thinking about that, plus the mistakes I made, one really bad lawn scalp, all of those things. Now, I have new sod. If you haven't heard, I got new sod in the front lawn. We did that right before Christmas, a couple weeks before Christmas. I got what's called Viridian, Viridian, Viridian. I need to probably Google that and see what that means, if it's a Greek god or something. Viridian, somebody named it that. But that's a Scots product, Scots Viridian St. Augustine grass. And what that is it is using the technology that they've already created with Provista. So they have this technology in all of their grasses. I'm not talking about the grass seed, the normal stuff you find in Home Depot shelf. I'm talking about the stuff that's coming out of R&D right now, research and development at Scott's, the stuff that we have, the grass seed. In fact, I'm the only one online that sells the Scott's Provista Kentucky Bluegrass seed, and especially when you're talking about homeowners. And so they have that seed, but other than that, they have sod. They have Scott's Provista Kentucky Bluegrass, which is in sod, and it's in the north, in like Ohio, and I think in Indiana and Illinois, and then and also in New York, because Striper Man got some. And then we also have the Scott's Provista St. Augustine grass down here, and then they just released Scott's Viridian St. Augustine grass down here. In fact, there's only 2 farms right now that have it, so there is some availability if you're somebody that really wants it. A lot of farms have Provista St. Augustine grass, so that's available in a lot of places. But what does all that mean? What is the technology that Scott's builds into those? So again, not the stuff that's on the shelves in Home Depot and Lowe's, not that stuff. The stuff that is available online or as sod. What that is it has 3 attributes. The first being glyphosate tolerance, and I bring that up first. They probably wouldn't do that if they were doing this talk, but I do, because I think that's the thing that is super cool about it. That's the thing. It's all of it's cool, but that's the thing that matters most to me, Alan Hain, as a homeowner. If I'm choosing grass, if I'm choosing a new St. Augustine grass to plant, this is the thing that means the most to me, is glyphosate tolerance. Why is that? Well, glyphosate is the active ingredient in the brand name Roundup in the old days. Now, nowadays, the brand Roundup doesn't mean anything at all when it comes to active ingredients. It's just a lawn spray brand, and they make Roundup that is safe for lawns, which I have done tons of videos about. They make it for cool season and warm season, but then they also make Roundup for crack and crevice. The stuff that you're thinking about, the Roundup that kills everything it touches, right? That you spray in the street cracks to kill the weeds out there, or in the cracks in your driveway, or in your beds. That glyphosate, that Roundup is when you think of glyphosate. So very confusing. Not my brand. Glad I don't have to deal with the Roundup brand. That's a Scott's brand, by the way. I'm glad I don't have to do the marketing for Roundup, because Wow, is that a challenge? But I can talk to you about it here because you guys are a little bit more advanced. You can follow along what I'm saying. But what you should do is take the word Roundup out of your vocabulary in general, unless you're talking about a specific product like Roundup for warm season lawns or Roundup for southern lawns. Then you could use the word Roundup. But other than that, don't use that word. Use the word glyphosate, because glyphosate is the active ingredient that is a non-selective herbicide. What do I mean by non-selective? It isn't selective about what it kills. It's an equal opportunity killer. It'll kill everything. Now, I got to say that with a caveat, just like I do everything. Glyphosate does have there are some plants that will not be killed by glyphosate, okay? There are plants that it doesn't kill everything. They're resistant, they're whatever, okay? That exists in nature. Clover is the one you'll know the most. Every one of you from stem to stern, east to west, probably has had clover in your lawn at some point. Glyphosate won't kill clover. So glyphosate being a non-selective herbicide means it kills everything, but it doesn't kill everything. But it's also something you're not going to spray anywhere that you care about plants because it will kill most things. Boy, how's that for confusing? So glyphosate, non-selective. That's what you used to have in Roundup back in the day, back when it was first started. It was glyphosate. They brand named it Roundup, and that's what you would get to spray in your crack and crevice, or if you had to burn your lawn down to start over, or if you had a field of weeds that you had to kill all the weeds out of it, or airports used a lot of it, right? Places where you don't want grass and stuff growing, they used Roundup, they used glyphosate. To confuse the matter more, then I think it's Bayer or Monsanto or one of them came out with Roundup Ready corn and Roundup Ready soybeans, right? Because again, Roundup used to be just glyphosate, so they could use the word Roundup, the brand Roundup, and the active ingredient glyphosate. They could use those two words interchangeably back then, and they did. And so now you have Roundup Ready corn. Now, I don't think farmers are confused by the word Roundup. At least I hope they aren't. I hope there aren't farmers that are going to go to Home Depot and buy something called Roundup off the shelf and go spray that on their corn, because they're going to kill it all. And that is because Roundup has been formulated with all kinds of other things. Now, I already talked about the Roundup that's safe for lawns, Roundup for southern lawns, or Roundup for cool northern lawns. There's also Roundup Extended Control, Roundup this, Roundup that. And they'll put other active ingredients in there, not just glyphosate. In fact, some Roundup formulations don't contain any glyphosate anymore. Some do to a small amount, but they'll put other things in there too. All right. So when I tell you that Scott's Pro Vista grass is glyphosate tolerant, I'm not saying it's Roundup Ready. Do not buy Roundup. You need to buy 41% glyphosate. All right. That is the main attribute. That was a nice little diatribe. Hope you learned something there. But glyphosate is a non-selective herbicide, and you can use it on Scott's Pro Vista Kentucky Bluegrass, Scott's Pro Vista St. Augustine grass, and the new Scott's Viridian. Those are all glyphosate tolerant. Okay, so that is one of the advantages, because here's the deal. Down here in Florida, the biggest, I would say, the biggest weed problem we have when it comes to trying to grow a clean St. Augustine grass lawn, the biggest challenge we have is the invasion of common or wild Bermuda. Okay? Wild Bermuda was a girl I dated. Common Bermuda, I would never date her. Only wild girls, never common ones. But common Bermuda is going to come into the lawn. I don't care where you live, what you do to keep it out, how many barriers you put around. Remember how I mentioned earlier storms bring things in? The storms that we have in Florida, they're rough. The water flows everywhere. You're going to get Bermuda in your lawn. It's going to happen, and it only takes a small sprig of it. It hits the dirt. It's alpha. It takes hold in one little spot, and then it's opportunistic. It'll wait till the time of the year when usually I've noticed it happens in spring. The St. Augustine will get started a little bit slower maybe for some reason, or it could be fall, could be winter. Whatever it is, it will find a time when the St. Augustine is a little bit slower, and it will grow and it will gain a foothold. But then the year will rage. You'll get to the summer, and the St. Augustine is a little bit more aggressive than the Bermuda. So the St. Augustine will mask it, but then you get to the fall, and the St. Augustine will start to recede a little bit. And then the Bermuda will take a little bit more ground and a little bit more until over time, in just a couple, 2-3 years, you end up having large swaths of 99% common Bermuda grass. And so what in the past, what the recommendation was for that was to resod. So if you want to have a perfectly clean St. Augustine grass lawn, you're just going to need to budget to resod every 3 to 4 years, or probably most people did it every 5 to 6 to 7 years. They would live with the wild Bermuda for a few years and then they'd resod. But either way, you're resodding every 7 years or so, pretty much. That was a recommendation. And then some people just wouldn't. And then there's lawns in my neighborhood. My neighborhood was built in 2005. And so you can see the lawns that are mostly clean St. Augustine. Those are ones that have been resodded over time, either the whole thing or they've cut sections out and resodded them. And those lawns are still mostly St. Augustine grass, but there are some that are almost all wild Bermuda now. Those are ones where they were just left to their own devices. They've just been mowed only, and the happy medium has been that the wild Bermuda has taken over, usually in the sunniest spots. And so that's just how it's always been. Now, there was something that came along a couple years ago that I tried with success in getting rid of common Bermuda in St. Augustine grass, and that was a mixture of 2 different chemistries or 2 different products. And the first was a brand name called Recognition, and that had an active ingredient. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but Recognition, and that's very new. And then there's Fusilade, too, has been around for a long time as a herbicide. What you do is you mix the so you cannot use Fusilade on any St. Augustine grass. You can't use it on Provista. You can't use it on Palmetto. You can't use it on Bitter Blue. You can't use it on Floritam. Do not use Fusilade on any St. Augustine grass, ever, unless you are mixing it with the Recognition herbicide, which is a safener. And that is a technical term for real, not a joke. It's an actual term for a class or a part, an active ingredient called a safener. And what Recognition does is when you mix it in the tank with Fusilade, it safens the Fusilade so that you can use the Fusilade on St. Augustine grass. That's what it does. And it works because Fusilade does kill Bermuda. The safener, the Recognition, safens the Fusilade too for the St. Augustine, but it doesn't safen the Fusilade 2 for the Bermuda. Super interesting. Side note, it works for Zoysia too. It does safen Zoysia, but it won't safen common Bermuda. So you mix those 2 together, and now you can spray and effectively kill wild Bermuda in your St. Augustine grass. But here's the deal. There are some drawbacks to that. Everything you do in nature is going to have some sort of drawback, some sort of give and take, some sort of yin and yang, if you will. And what that is this. The Fusilade severely slows down and stunts the growth of the St. Augustine grass. It doesn't kill it. It doesn't singe it. It doesn't turn it brown, but it slows it down. And so what happens is when you spray the wild Bermuda, if you do it at the wrong time of year, your St. Augustine grass will thin out to the point, not thin out, or it is thin because of the fact that you've sprayed that Bermuda grass there and killed the Bermuda grass off. Now you're left with thin St. Augustine if there's any there at all, but you've also slowed the St. Augustine down from the Fusilade. And so it takes a long time for it to fill back in. And what I noticed was other weeds would fill back in, especially in very large areas. This is the other thing. If you're going to use that Fusilade and Recognition combination there, it's not going to work on areas that are, 10 foot by 10 foot and 90% Bermuda grass. You might as well just scrape out and resod and save yourself the chemical at that point, because you kill all that Bermuda out of there. It's going to take a good few months, for the 3 months or so, for the St. Augustine to fill back in. You'd have been a lot quicker to just cut out the 10 by 10 and drop in, 8 or 9 or 10 pieces of sod and walk away. So there's that to think about. But what happens is if you don't do that, the other weeds will come in. So I've killed out the Bermuda, but I've stunted the St. Augustine to the point now other weeds will come in. Well, that was when I did it in the fall because we're going into a slow growth period. Well, if I do it in the spring, so then I turn around and I did that application the next spring and it works the same. It kills the Bermuda off. Now, then you have time for that stunting to get away, for the St. Augustine to overcome the stunting when you do this in the spring, and it's heading into the big growth period of the summer. Well, then it works. Then it works fine. It kills off the Bermuda. Now we're coming into the spring growth push, the summer growth push. The St. Augustine picks back up, kicks in, and it really does well, and it will fill back in. But here's the thing. If you don't get 100% of the wild Bermuda, it will be back by the fall, and it will be back in thick spots. If you have any mistake during the year, like I did, where I let my lawn get overgrown, and then when I cut it, I had some clippings build up in a couple spots where I didn't clean them out, and it thinned out the grass. Guess what? Wild Bermuda filled right into those faster than the St. Augustine could. What I'm getting at is you're going to the trouble of getting this Fusilade 2 and this Recognition, expensive chemicals, right? I don't like the word chemical, but I'm using it here because you know what I mean. Expensive herbicides that you got to mix together and spray that do work, but the Wild Bermuda comes back literally within a few months. It's futile. And I don't think any LCO, lawn care operator, I don't see any LCO ever investing in that. I would not waste my money on it. I just wouldn't. Because it's going to come back. Now, this is why Provista is an excellent choice, or Viridian, because it's glyphosate tolerant. So the first thing is you have to realize is to get Provista or to get Viridian, it requires a resod. So that means scraping everything out, all of your current grass, whether it's Wild Bermuda, whether it's St. Augustine, whether it's weeds, scrape it all out. It requires that. You can only get the St. Augustine, Viridian, or Provista in sod. So it requires a resod to get it. Scrape everything out, put down the new sod. Now, what do you have? Brand new monoculture, right? One variety of St. Augustine grass. Viridian is what I have. I put that down. Am I going to get Wild Bermuda growing in it? Yes, for sure. It's going to happen this year. But because I did a resod, I got a clean slate now. Sure, there's a lot of root in there. Again, you're never going to get Wild Bermuda at anything. I don't care what you do. Sod cut it out, bring in new dirt, bring in some special overexpensive compost dirt that you pay a lot of money for and waste your money on. Bring all that crap in. You're going to get Wild Bermuda back. I don't care, right? So I know that's going to happen. But because I have the tool of glyphosate, an inexpensive and easy to get, not as easy to get, and not as inexpensive, but still inexpensive, easy to get, easy to mix up, one single product, spritz, done. I can easily keep the Wild Bermuda out now. And that is the key. Now, you could say, well, I could do the same thing, Alan. I could resod. I got too much Wild Bermuda. I could resod and put Floratam back in. You certainly could. And that's the same process. But now you got to go get all that expensive Fusilade and that expensive safener, and you got to mix all that up, right? Whereas and you got to spray it. And again, it's going to come back. So you have to keep mixing all that expensive stuff up all the time, right? Whereas glyphosate is a single product available pretty much anywhere, almost. Okay, so that's why glyphosate tolerance is important. By the way, let me go back to saying, why is glyphosate not as available anymore? Because people are scared of it. People have become, you want to talk about something that's become politicized? It's glyphosate. Glyphosate, it's actually one of the safe, it doesn't move. But the thing about glyphosate is when it finds soil, it stops. It kind of binds with the soil, and that's it. It doesn't move. It doesn't translocate down, up, around. It won't move out off target and kill other plants. It's super safe that way. That's why you can spray it all the way up to the base of trees, because it doesn't move. So it goes where you put it, and that's it, right? Again, I'm not going to get into the whole political side of it, but yeah, there's a lot. You want to talk about misinformation. I hate that stupid word too, but there's a lot there. Anyway, back to it. So that's one of the things with Provista, glyphosate tolerance. I can get rid of the Wild Bermuda. I can also get rid of torpedo grass, which is another problem. Now, I have an interesting thing that I came across. I was told a couple years ago that glyphosate will not kill doveweed. Doveweed is my arch enemy, and it's really starting to be a problem in my current lawn. A little bit came in, don't know where it got from, found it around the edges, and it's starting to spread year over year. That's why I've talked about pre-emergence. I'm going to use a lot more pre-emergence this year. But anyway, someone of authority told me that glyphosate does not kill doveweed. However, I was reading a University of Florida article the other day that says that glyphosate does kill doveweed. So we're going to test that coming up this year at the doveweed in my lawn. And then there's another weed that sounds pretty. It's called dayflower. That is my current arch enemy. It's the worst enemy I have. It spreads with rhizomes. It spreads prolifically. It has big leaves, has pretty purple flowers, but it spreads out to the point where it will outcompete the St. Augustine grass every time. If you have big patches of dayflower in your lawn, it will outcompete your St. Augustine in every case. Glyphosate does kill it. Glyphosate's slow, but it does kill it. So the reason that back to it, I really like this Viridian and was happy to make this partnership with Scott's and get this Viridian, is because of the fact that now I can keep out my arch enemies out of my lawn. We'll find out about the doveweed, but I can keep out the torpedo grass and the common Bermuda, which are they're two big scourges there, and then again the others I mentioned. So that's something that's really cool. If you get the Scott's Pro Vista, again, that comes in the Kentucky Bluegrass, and the Kentucky Bluegrass is available in seed. All of that, you're going to have different weeds that you deal with, but glyphosate tolerant as well. All right, what's next? The second thing that Viridian St. Augustine grass has going for it, and the Pro Vistas, is that it is a slower grower. Now, this one is interesting because people love to call me out. I know people always do. Well, I thought you liked to mow. Why would you want something that's a slower grower? I thought you liked to mow, Alan. People are so extreme. You got to stop being so extreme in your life, and you got to think. I love to mow. Just because something grows slower, it doesn't mean you can't mow it. I don't know where I've ever said that, or what would lead you to believe that. Something that grows slower still needs to be. Think about your shrubs. Some shrubs grow slower than others. Does that mean that your shrubs don't need to be pruned? No, they just get pruned at a little different rate. And for me, the thing about Florida with the rain every day in the summer and Floratam St. Augustine grass is you have to mow it every 2 to 3 days. There's a stretch in like July and August where you got to mow every 3 days. You really do. If you're going to keep on top of the 1/3 rule. No one does, okay? They don't, so don't think that anybody does. And by the way, there is no lawn service that mows 3 times a week. They all mow weekly, right? So think about those guys, how it would be nice if they didn't have to mow freaking overgrown jungles every single freaking week in the summer. So this is where Viridian and Pro Vista come in. They grow slower. Does that mean that I have to mow them every 3 days? No. It means what it means is I can mow them every single week, just like what you expect. Just like when you first got into lawn care and you were like, yeah, I'm going to mow my lawn every Saturday. And then you didn't realize that when you get to the growing season, and this is even for you guys with turf type tall fescue, you really need to mow twice a week too when you get to April and May. Now, you don't have to, but you should. And a lot of you do. And some of you would want to mow more. I get it. But what I'm trying to get at, everybody thinks you mow like I mow my lawn every Saturday. That's just what I do. Well, with Pro Vista and Viridian, you actually can make that true. You just mow every Saturday. And in fact, if you miss a Saturday because the kid's got a baseball game or you're camping or whatever, you can let it go 2 weeks and it will not be overgrown, because what it does, it kind of just grows, and then it just stops. And it just kind of sits there. Now, I will tell you that was not perfected until the last couple of years. I have some of the original, I call it the pre-COVID Pro Vista, and it only has to be mowed once a month. Now, can I mow it every week? No, I could mow it every 2 weeks and take something off, but not every week. So the original stuff was super slow. They've sped it back up. This is the nice thing about having this genetic modification that they do. They can kind of turn things up and down. I don't know how they do that, but they have scientists that do that. That's what R&D is. And so they've turned it up now to where it's just manageable. So all of the Pro Vistas, pretty much you can mow them every 7 days and you're perfect. But if you miss a few days, hey, you're good to go too. Do you want to mow every 4, every 3? Go ahead. Not going to hurt anything. You can do that. Knock yourself out. I totally understand. I mean, I would just skip straight to the beer, and the chicha, but you could do the mow first if you want. It's all on you. But that's the other thing. And then the third thing, here's the third thing about Pro Vista and now Viridian. And the third thing, and by the way, Viridian has one more attribute, which we'll talk about. The third thing is that it is a deeper, darker green color. I say blue-green, deeper, darker green color. And that comes from the slower growth. Because of the fact, I had thought they did something. I thought they injected something into it to make it that way, but I was talking to them. Dr. Matt told me, no, it's the slower growth. What happens is the slower compact growth nature just compacts the chlorophyll tighter together, which gives it a darker color, a darker look. And it is noticeably darker. You can see it. Now, Viridian is even a step darker than that. Not that they necessarily did that on purpose, but what Viridian has is it has bred into it cold tolerance, which also brings along shade tolerance. But cold tolerance is really the big one. And the reason I say cold tolerance is because that's what's needed in northern Florida and throughout Texas. And by the way, in Texas, your Pro Vista is the Viridian variety. So you already have the cold variety in Texas. North Florida, when you start getting Viridian, and I'm sure it's going to go through all the Gulf Coast states. So all of you guys in between, I'm not forgetting you, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, you guys too, probably Oklahoma one day, you're going to be able to have the cold tolerance now. And that's what Viridian does. But for some reason, Viridian, when they bred that cold tolerance into it, it made it even darker. And so to the point now where I have a new neighbor that moved in up the street, and I was talking to him the other day. He goes, Alan, he goes, why is half of your lawn so much darker than the other? What's wrong with it? And I was like, well, no, buddy, that's just a different kind of St. Augustine grass. So I'll be showing you guys that coming up once we get into the season, because you can see it now, but I want to go ahead and give it some time to start growing. The Viridian hasn't even been mowed yet because it's been so cold. I could mow it right now, but I've just been leaving it alone again because of the cold. I don't want to stress it or anything. But once I start mowing it and it starts getting into a normal pattern, then I'll show you guys. It is wild how much darker green it is. So, I mean, to the point where I might even get a letter from my HOA because it shows. I mean, I didn't get a letter when I had Zoysia on one side and St. Augustine on the other, but I think it's because they were on two different streets. Nobody could really tell. But this, man, this you can tell. So, anyway, that's all of the attributes now of Viridian and Provista, but Viridian that I have. It rooted quickly. It's been in now over a month, 6 weeks or so. Rooted quickly. I put fungicide on it right away. I recommend that. It is a St. Augustine grass, so you're going to treat it just like every other St. Augustine. It's going to be susceptible to large patch and everything else, right? St. Augustine grass. So fungicide when you put it down. I'm going to do fungicides in the spring. Now, I got glyphosate for weed control, so you have to think, well, do I need to do pre-emergence? Personally, I don't do pre-emergent on any new sod until it's been through one full growing season. So in Florida, I call the growing season summer. So I could do pre-emergent in the fall if I wanted to. But because I have that tool of glyphosate to be used if anything comes through, it's a choice. If I wanted to or not. We'll have to play it by ear and see how it goes. As far as fertilizing goes, one of the nice things is a lot of people get scared of nitrogen. My thing is I throw down nitrogen because it makes the lawn green, it makes the lawn thicker, and that's what we're doing. We're the bodybuilders of lawn care. I realize there are people that aren't like that. I realize there are people that like to go straight natty, whatever. They never really show their lawns anyway. I get it. I totally understand. Me, I like to pump my lawn up, man. I like to pump you up. I like to do that. Just like bodybuilders like to experiment with their bodies and try different things. Right? I like to experiment with my lawn and pump it with different things and see what happens to it. And I kind of know now, I want it to be a little greener right now. Jam. I want it to be a little slower right now. Jam. I just put in what I want, I'm having a little of this, I feel like spraying a little of that today. Oh yeah. I want to do this. I want to do that. I do what I want, right? It's my body, my choice, my lawn, my choice. Stay out of it. And so I like to put the nitrogen down, but people are scared of that. Some people I get it. You're scared of steroids, okay? You see the bodybuilders. You see how they, C-bum, Mr. Olympia. You see that. And yeah, there's sacrifices made there. There are health risks there. Yeah, but that's freaking C-bum, bro. Right? So that's my lawn. My lawn is C-bum, baby. The good news with the lawn is if I mess it up, which I have, I've messed it up before. If I do, it grows back. Right? Then I get the challenge of rehabbing it after that injury. After you snap that pec muscle or break your bicep or whatever happens, well, now you got to go through rehab and now there's the whole journey of coming back. This is how I look at lawn care, but some people are scared of the nitrogen. They're afraid it's going to create flushes of growth. And oh my God, I read somewhere on a university website or on some defunct lawn forum that flushes of growth are bad. Yeah, flushes of growth. My nickname in college, actually. I don't mind flushes of growth. That means my lawn is nice and green. It's more satellite dishes being put up to grab more sunlight to make more photosynthesis, right? But when you have the Provista and the Viridian that are bred to be slower growers, you can hammer them with all of the nitrogen you want, and they aren't going to grow any faster, but they are going to get darker green. You can push that dark green even darker with nitrogen, just like any other grass, but you don't have to worry about the dreaded and scary flushes of growth, right? So for those of you that like to throw down like I do, that like to hammer, this is the perfect grass for you. And again, that's in Kentucky bluegrass, same thing. Provista, St. Augustine grass, available right now. And really, because that one's been on the market for a while, not as expensive as you might think. Really in line with other St. Augustine grasses. Or if you want the newest, latest, and greatest, the Viridian, yeah, you're going to pay a premium for that, but then you're going to have the deepest, darkest, bluest green. You're going to get the best Turk builder. You're going to have the best peptides. You're going to have the best TRTT, baby. You're going to have the MCPP, yeah, you know me, or whatever they call it. You're going to have all of that stuff. You can pump it all in there, baby. And she ain't going to grow any faster. So no flushes of growth. So no one can blame disease on you. That's the other thing people like to do. They like to blame the homeowner for the disease in their lawn. You threw down too much nitrogen. You caused it. Oh, okay. Anyway, that's cool. So there's a lot of advantages for someone like me, and you're going to see. I'm going to hammer it. In fact, my camera guy, my producer, Nick, he was asking me the other day, he's like, hey, normally aren't we shooting a lot of videos and throwing down a lot of fertilizer right now? Because last year we shot all brand new videos for all the fertilizers, and so when we do that, we need B-roll. So what do? We go out to the front lawn, and we have 5 fertilizers in our line, plus we have an 803 biostimulant. We load them up. We shoot them all in one day. All that goes down, 3 pounds per 1,000, all of them, all in one day, all in the lawn. What does it do? It just turns it really green. It doesn't hurt it. People are, it's going to burn. No, 50% of the nitrogen is coated with polymers that keep it slow release. You don't have to be scared. This is the other thing. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Shout out to Greg. He used to say that all the time. Don't be scared. Don't be scared of the fertilizer. Throw it down, baby. Listen, Sebum wasn't scared. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, before you had, Dorian Yates, before you had all the science, right? All the PhDs and came in and ruined everything. When you had Dorian Yates back there shooting up and Schwarzenegger and these guys, they were just figuring stuff out. That's the fun, man. That's the golden age of bodybuilding right there. And that's what we're in with lawn care. Now, am I telling you to do something that's going to hurt the environment? No. But we do start throwing down a lot this time of year. We do start pushing the lawn I start liking to push it. Now, I'm going to wait. Again, it's super cold right now, and that's why we haven't been throwing down any fertilizer yet. It's just too cold. If you have my app, that's going to give you a sensible program that's going to give you enough fertilizer to keep you green, keep things looking good. Again, there's a difference in the app. The app is there. I follow the app. I love the app. The app is for every person out there, and you should follow it and use it. There's plenty there for you to throw down to keep your enjoyment of spraying and praying and spreading and dreading. All of that's there. But you have to understand, I do more than that because I just like to. I just like to do more stuff. It's just me. Now, I'm working on a way to get some fresh perspective. When I say that, some fresh lawn to work on. I always try to find some new lawn space to work on every year, project lawns, whatever. So I'm pretty close to having that. So that'll give us some new things, some area where I can do some experiments. What if I do this lawn this way and this lawn that way, and we follow them, right? We'll use my philosophy, and we'll use retired third lieutenant PhD's philosophy, and we'll see who does the best. We'll use the university philosophy, what they say. We'll use this. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to do that and just kind of see we'll use that expensive, overpriced dirt that you guys buy, that compost. We'll see if that does anything, because I haven't seen anything with that, to be honest with you. A lot of things, a lot going on, and I'm hoping to be. Well, I am. I'm not hoping. It's there. It's going to happen. So that'll be some really fun new content coming up for the year. But back to it, the biggest thing I wanted to go in this segment is to let you know, yes, you're going to see some brand new Viridian St. Augustine grass in the front yard this year, the main stage. It's going to be right next to the Floratam. We're going to see them going side by side, neck and neck. What are things looking like? And by the way, that's when you're going to really see that mowing advantage, is when they're side by side and I'm sitting there wanting to go out and do something, go to the beach on a Saturday, and the Floratam needs a mow. Of course, that's why I have robots. All right, anyway, let's get into some tips now on the other side. All right, so this is a Florida one. Again, Florida's still pretty active. For those of you that are wondering, hey, we got all this cold weather, and my app is telling me there's things I should be doing, putting down. Let me just tell you, this cold spell is going to be gone next week. In fact, right now, today, it was 35 degrees when I woke up this morning. It's going to be a high of 65 today. I will take the sweatshirt off. Well, I won't, because I'm from here, so it'll still be cold to me. But people will be taking their sweatshirts off, putting sandals on, putting on flip-flops, right? And so it's nothing to worry about. Stay the course. If you already put your prodiamine down and you got snowed on, that's fine too. That doesn't hurt anything. All snow is severely slowed down cold rain. That's all it is. It's not going to hurt your prodiamine. You don't have to reapply it. Everything was good. If you haven't applied yet, go ahead and put it down now. The ground will not be frozen. You put it down next week, water it in. Everything is fine. Stay the course and keep things going. If you're wondering, is the snow going to affect the lawn itself? Yeah, it could. I mean, I don't know. If you walked on it, that's not good for it. If the snow hit and covered it up and kept it safe from the wind, you may see nothing from that. You might get some freeze damage in St. Augustine. People in Texas, their St. Augustine grass freezes every year. The St. Augustine grass that we have here in Florida is probably not, it's not the same variety, so it's probably not going to do as well. But you're going to have an application of Stress Blend coming up, most of you in northern Florida, sometime in February, late February. And a second application of prodiamine. So just get that Stress Blend down and you'll be fine. You just want to, the key is you don't want to apply it until the lawn is needing to be mowed. In other words, that it's starting to grow. It doesn't have to be growing fast, but it does have to be growing. You don't apply nitrogen to a dormant lawn. So whatever time that happens, the app is going to trigger you whenever it thinks the soil temperatures are at the right time, but it doesn't know what the top of your lawn looks like. So whenever the lawn turns green, in fact, if it comes earlier, if your lawn starts green and you need to mow before the app tells you to apply Stress Blend, you can always apply early, mark it off on the calendar. It won't mess anything up ahead of time. So that's what you want. Stress Blend, high potassium fertilizer and high magnesium. That's what's in Stress Blend, and that's what's going to help recover from that winter stress. And that's, by the way, that's for all of you. Some of you that are a little further to the north that get snow every year but still have warm season turf, maybe like Oklahoma, areas like that, you're used to this, right? It is what it is. You're probably dealing with Bermuda maybe. It is what it is, but still that Stress Blend is what you want to help you come out. It's not going to push too much nitrogen, so it's because the grass, warm season grass, doesn't really want to grow real fast in the spring. It's not till summer, so we give it only 7% nitrogen, of which 50% is slow release. So it's just a little trickle charge of nitrogen to help green it up and help get it going, but not push it too hard when it doesn't want to be pushed. And we got the iron in there, obviously, because I love that to give the dark green color. And then again, that magnesium and that potassium for stress. We got micronutrients in there, Bionite for the soil, lots of good stuff in there. Stress Blend is what you want to get your lawn going for the spring. Now, here's the other thing with warm season turf. A lot of folks, I see this in our we have a Florida Facebook group. I see this. What'll happen is people in like Central Florida who have moved here from New York or New Jersey or Ohio or wherever you came from, and your lawn has been green the last 2 years, all winter. It just has been because we've had mild winters. And so you just assume that the lawns are always green here. And then this year we got cold enough that your lawns in Central Florida went dormant, and people are posting, is my lawn dead? The answer is no. You got to remember that you live in a part of Florida that I call the transition zone when it comes to winter. So you have South Florida where they never go dormant, really never. Then you have Central Florida, which is like I-4, that whole corridor there. Some years our lawns go dormant. Other years they don't. I'm saying me because I'm kind of in that corridor just south of it. Some years our lawns will go dormant when they're cold, like this one. Other years they won't go dormant when it's unseasonably warm, like the last two. And then there's North Florida, where your lawn pretty much goes dormant every year. Even in a warmer year, most of you guys up in North Florida, Jacksonville, and then over to Tallahassee, and then over to Pensacola, and over that way, over to the Pascagoula, all of you guys, your lawns will typically go dormant every year. So folks in Central Florida, their lawns went dormant this year, haven't gone dormant the last two, and they're asking, is my lawn dead? The answer is no, it's just dormant. So what do we do? Nothing. You can spot spray weeds if you want. Atrazine is really the best to use this time of year. It's cheap, it's easy to get, it works good in the cold weather. It'll kill most of what you're dealing with. And then once you start mowing again, that's when you can switch to the Image Purple Top, or the Image for Southern Lawns. We call it Image Purple Top because that way it's just easy to identify. It's the same thing as Avenue South. Avenue South is a PBI Gordon product that a lot of pros use down here. And literally, Image for Southern Lawns, Image Purple Top, is literally the same thing. When you get it all mixed down and into the water, per gallon, when you look at it on a per gallon of mix, it's literally the exact same active ingredients at the exact same concentrations. Again, down when you get it mixed. When you buy the concentrated version, the active ingredients will be different concentrations, but then you have to go into the app rates. So again, once you mix it all down, I have a video I can give you below. I broke all this down. It took a lot of time to go into it and really teach on that label and what it meant and how it does compare to the I've take a lot of time for that. So I'll link below. I'm really proud. It has blog posts that go with it. We go into the active ingredients, how they work. We talk about chemical class, really deep teaching that I did. And I think I'm gonna resurface that here in the spring because it's important to understand that. So Image Purple Top, but wait until your lawn is actively growing. If it's dormant, it's okay, but I think maybe not dormant Bermuda. Anyway, just wait till it's growing. For now, just use atrazine if you do have some weeds coming in. But again, if your lawn is dormant, everything's fine. Whenever you can get pre-emergent down, though. The one thing you can put on a dormant lawn is pre-emergent, 007 prodiamine, because that's not doing anything for the grass. That is for the soil. There is 7% that's there on the label, 0.077% 7% potassium, but that's only because the rock form of that is being used as a carrier for the prodiamine itself. What it is they adhere the prodiamine, it adheres to the outside of those rocks. Essentially, it's on there, and then when you spread it and you water it in, it washes off and it gets into the soil. It's just the delivery method, essentially. The other way you could do it is just take the powder and divide it and dissolve it in water and spray it. All right, that's what we call WDG. By the way, we had a 5-ounce WDG of the prodiamine that we had for years. We do not have that anymore. Our supplier went out of business on that. Yeah, so we don't have that anymore. If anybody does have a way to get me some 5-ounce prodiamine, I have significant revenue sitting there waiting for you. So reach out. I've actually reached out to a couple suppliers, and they're not interested in it. I don't think they think that a YouTuber can move the revenue that... Yeah, well, anyway, they'll figure it out. They'll learn one day. By the way, that's something I wanted to get on real quick. I usually put this stuff at the beginning of these podcasts, but it just reminded me of this. So a lot of you all in this audience, you are YouTubers yourself or influencers yourself. Maybe not YouTuber, maybe your thing is Instagram. Maybe you're really big on TikTok, which that's what we're going to talk about is the TikTok shutdown. Maybe you're big on, I don't know, whatever other platforms there are. Facebook, that's your thing. And what happened recently was TikTok was shut down. Now, I'm not going to talk about the political side of it. I have my own feelings about it. I'm not going to bring those up here because this is not the forum for that. But by the way, TikTok is back up now, and Donald Trump's going to make a deal. Good to go. You guys are going to be fine. But for a while there was a scare that TikTok was shut down. And a lot of people were like, wow, I lost my whole business. If it happened to me, obviously, I'd be pissed off too. I'd be upset too. And that's why I'm going to give you some advice. The first thing is you have to realize anytime that you're in a business, especially a new business, and when I say a new business, being an influencer, none of us like the word influencer, but it's the only word we have right now to kind of describe what we are. There's a term content to commerce that we can talk about, but as far as what you are, personal brand, that was like the term Gary Vaynerchuk kind of made of it, but now they're called influencers or personal brand. When you are a personal brand, right, you have to realize that this is a new job. There is no like how-to book on this. Well, there probably are now, but there's not any how-to book that's worth anything because these platforms have only been what they are for about 10 years, really. Now, I've been online for longer than that. I started out when it was blogs, 2007 or so is when I started learning SEO, search engine optimization, digital marketing, websites. I was a big WordPress guy. So I started learning back then. But as far as being able to go to a platform such as YouTube and build an audience there and then be able to earn a living by monetizing that platform, that's a fairly new phenomenon that's only happened. Phenomenon. That's only happened in the last 10 years or so. And so what I'm saying is one thing that I have always been good at is looking ahead and understanding the trends. And sometimes I've stayed out of trends on purpose because I just didn't want to do it. Other times I've jumped on them. Obviously, I was early to YouTube. That's my number one claim to fame is that lawn care is my thing. It's my passion. It's also where I worked. I learned a lot from True Green Camelon, a lot of good, a lot of bad. But the biggest thing I learned at True Green Camelon was how to make proper applications and how important a properly applied application is, not only to the results that you get, but to your bottom line so you can get your freaking bonus, right? So doing the right thing and making the application the right way pays off in two different ways. And that's why I'm so big on proper application. Spray it this way. Here's what pounds on the ground means. Here's how you read a label. Here's how much nitrogen's going down, blah, blah, blah. And again, you got the other side of me that's like, woohoo, having fun. I want to be a bodybuilder. I get it. But I also balance that out with all of the proper education and everything because it's okay to have a little bit of fun, my friends. So that was the thing is I saw that YouTube was going to be big one day. When I was on blogs, I used to have a blog called Life and Lawns in 2007-8. Made a little bit of money from that, sold it for quite a bit of money at one point, moved back into more blogging, but I could see YouTube's in 2005. I jumped over to YouTube in 2009. When I joined YouTube, the only other lawn care guy there was Greg Chisholm, geek to freak. Now he has a channel called Don't Be Scared Lawn Care. That's what I was mentioning earlier. Don't be scared. That's his thing. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Man, I'll tell you what, Greg, I tell you, you still are an inspiration to me. And by the way, Greg became one of the biggest YouTubers. I don't know if he's ever actually talked about all that, but he became like the #1 most viewed. Wow, crazy. Anyway, he's back. He's in lawn care now. Back in the day, back in the early days, it was just him, and he would do shout outs. He would be sitting in front of like 7-Eleven while he was on his mowing route, eating his lunch, and he'd go through his phone, and he'd do shout outs and stuff and all kinds of stuff. So way back then, it was just us two. So we were the first two to see it. But he didn't do DIY. He was a professional. He was a guy going from house to house mowing lawns, and he would talk about the different equipment he used, and he was proud of his stander and all these different things that he would do and all that kind of stuff, right? That's what he did. I was talking to homeowners. In fact, there was a lot more professional guys that came along. Sean Spencer came pretty quick after that. So a lot of those professional guys came in and started doing content. There wasn't very many DIYers until, I'm going to say, like 2019 or 2021. That's when all the DIY lawn care channels really started up. Now I don't know how many of those there are. But I don't think there's too many that are really that much older than 2019 that are still going. So that's been super interesting. So all I'm trying to say is, when you make a living in this genre, you have to be able to kind of see things. And my #1 claim to fame was I was early. I knew that YouTube would be perfect for lawn care one day, and I got in first. I got in early. Over the years, I've watched and I've looked at different platforms and what they do and how they move. Vine went away. Vine was there and went away. I used to have actually a really big following on Snapchat. My snaps used to get 7, 8, 9,000 opens or whatever they call it. But then Snapchat changed their whole app, and I didn't feel like relearning it, and I walked away from it. That was a mistake, because apparently Snapchat is huge now. People don't realize it when it comes to one-to-one or that type of whatever. Like, I see adults using Snapchat with their kids and stuff to communicate. So that's one I missed. So all I'm saying is, you got to realize that you got to kind of look ahead. You got to kind of understand the trends. And the most important thing is, you need to build a list. This is really #1. This is really what I wanted to get to. Build a list. And when I say build a list, I'm talking about an email list. Email has proven to be still the #1 communication source for your very best followers, your most engaged people, the people that really want to understand who you are. Email works. Email's worked way since the beginning, since before I was even doing any type of marketing. Email was big, and it still is, because if a platform shuts down, but you have emails of your customers or of your followers, then you're able to email them and say, #1, I moved over to here. Hey, I'm sorry TikTok went down, but now you can find me on this platform. That's why it's so important to build an email list. There's a second reason, though, and that is because platforms like Facebook and many others now will allow you to take that email list and upload it into their system, and they do what is called customer match. If you have that person as on your list, and their Facebook email is the same, now you can advertise to them. You can get in front of them with a video message that says, hey, I know you missed me since TikTok's gone. I'm finding you here on Facebook. Here's my Facebook page. Or I'm over on Rumble now, or I'm over on YouTube. It's easier, though, to keep them on Facebook. What I'm saying is, the email list is your core to keep in touch with your audience. All right. And also, down the line, when you go to monetize, email is going to be much more lucrative, because you can control the messaging there. You can control the timing. You can also you can segment your list out if you're smart by who opens and who doesn't, by who clicks and who doesn't. So you can do all of the changing around of the elements, the timing. You have all of that in your control to be able to get your message to people, right? By segmenting your list out. Whereas when you put something out on TikTok, you're just relying on their algorithm. And this is why people play those games with YouTube, with the algorithm. I tried that. George did a really good job at teaching me some of that stuff one year, and we had a really good year. But I say, I can't do this anymore, man. I can't play for this algorithm. It just takes my soul away. So really, I don't care anymore. I don't give a shit. I just don't. Every once in a while, I'll do something that I think might get a lot of views, because I want a little bit of ego to build right there, right? So what do we all do in lawn care every year? We do the how to fix your ugly lawn. You do that every year in March. Yeah, you get 1 million views out of it. Yeah, it feeds your ego. Fine. That's fun. Those are easy, quick wins. But man, these guys that do it, and again, I respect George. George, every video, man, taking the how long am I going to spend on the thumbnail? Where's it going to go? What's the title going to be? I got in the first minute, I got to do this. I got to build the anticipation. I got to make sure I have a hook. I got to get it. I mean, that's great. It's just not me. I just want to go out on the lawn and do what I want to do and share with you, and hopefully you like it. And if you don't, well, okay. That's where I'm at now. Now, why am I able to do that? Why do I not have to play those games so much anymore? Because I have a list now. And I have a lot more than a list. Now I have an app that has people in it with data that I can reach people through, as well as multiple Facebook groups with thousands of people in them that I could reach people. So I've diversified. And that's really what I meant by seeing the trends. It's really about diversify. Pull your audience in as many places as you can and as many ways as you can, but make the email list number one. That is my advice to all of you that are influencers that want to make a living at this, that want to turn this into something much, much bigger, is to build your email list. Now, how do you do that? And by the way, this can, all of you that are listening, they go, Alan, I don't care about this. Go ask your kids what they want to be when they grow up. Go ask them. If you have middle schoolers or high schoolers, they all want to be some sort of social media influencer. They all do. And so you're learning something now that they're not going to get taught. They're not going to get taught in their 6th grade class about how to build an email list. All right. But you heard enough information to be dangerous that if your kid actually does have some talent or actually does have something to share or actually has something that can make them into something, now you have a little bit of knowledge to at least guide them. So hopefully you get a little something out of it that way. So how do you build that email list? Well, it's going to be easier if you're a channel like mine. I'm a teaching channel, an educational channel first and foremost. Yes, I have products, but all of those products were developed originally from my audience asking for things. It wasn't like I came up and said, I want to have 2406 flagship. No, what it was I had products that I'd recommended that were on store shelves that sold out that people couldn't get. And so they're like, Alan, we're not going to watch your videos anymore. You've been recommending Milorganite all these years and it sold out. And it did for like 2 years. It wasn't even, you couldn't find it. And there was price gouging and all kinds of stuff. Well, all right, guys, I'll make my own fertilizer line for you. And so I did, So that's why I have a fertilizer. I would have been content to work with Milorganite and a couple others, So those are all things that have almost everything. Now, the biostimulants were because I met John Perry and started talking to him and learning about what his professionals were doing. And, again, I think you guys don't realize that Next, it's called Next, that's the line, NEXT. It's Greene County Fertilizer, but it has Next on everything. That stands for nitrogen extension. That's what it is. And so John was like, Al, I have these products. They're about nitrogen extension. They're going to make your fertilizer go further. I think you'd like them. I was like, well, heck yeah, man. Anything that's going to make my nitrogen go further, I want. And so I started using them. And they do. They make the nitrogen go further. My soil is so black. This is Florida. My soil is dark black, baby. And it's from using all those products all these years. Black soil, it indicates health. It does. Go ask any gardener what color soil they want. Do they want gray soil? No. Do they want what? No, they want black soil, baby. Right? It's just a thing. It's like a visual cue of healthy soil, black soil. And so going back to it, yes, I do sell stuff, but I'm primarily a teaching channel because I teach people how to use the products. That's really the whole thing. And I always teach you guys the why behind it. I'm not just saying throw down flagship. I do say that sometimes, but I try to balance that out with just as much content around why am I recommending flagship now? Well, because it's the spring and you have cool season grass. And so your grass is in a natural growth spurt. And our goal is to get your lawn thicker. And the way we get the lawn thicker is to spur growth. So we have sunlight, we have rain, we have longer days spurring that. Let's take advantage of what nature is doing and let's feed the lawn some nitrogen. Flagship, 3/4 pound right now. That's enough. 50% of that available now to push and green. 50% available slowly over the next 35 to 45 days. That's why I'm recommending. Why? Well, it's also got a little bit of potassium in it for stress. I'm telling you the why behind the recommendation. So I'm primarily an educational channel. And so with that, people look at my lawn and they look at the results I've achieved. And so they say, how can I get that? No problem. I wrote a free guide for you. And you guys know I have hundreds probably now, but for sure dozens of free guides that are still in circulation that I update every year. There's about 20 guides every year that I update, some more than others. And those are free guides that we give out. And I give those out to people to say, hey, here's how you get started. Here's how you understand fungus in the lawn. Here's how you understand fertilizer. Here's how you understand soil testing. Here's a guide about winter lawn care in Florida. Here's a guide. I even have a guide on how to put up Christmas lights. I have guides that teach people on all of these different subjects. And I give those out for free, but they're a PDF. And so the only way that I can get you the PDF is for you to give me your email address and I'll email it to you. So for me getting their email, in exchange for that, I'm giving them something of value. I'm sending you a guide that'll teach you something you didn't know. And you don't have to go through hundreds of hours of my video because it's there, but you don't have to dig through hundreds of hours of my videos to find it. It's all consolidated right here in a guide where I reference those videos and I give you more context in writing. That's worth an email address. And the idea is that I'm hoping, and it works this way because we built a very large business based on this. This is called content to commerce, is that the guide provides enough value that now you're like, well, man, you taught. Thanks, Alan. I appreciate that. What else do you have for me? And I'm like, well, you just learned all about fertilizer and soil testing. I have a soil test for you. So here you go. And not only am I just going to throw the soil test at you, now I have an app that I built for you that costs a lot of money and it's free. And you can import your soil test in there and it'll give you a program based on the guide and the information in the guide that you have, right? Oh, you want more? Well, I actually have a paid training if you want it. It's only $7. It's called Yard Care Bootcamp. It'll give you all the basics of how to throw down, how to mix, how to spray. Why do we use this tip versus that tip? How do I mix the herbicide? What I have training for, it's $7, right? So the idea is I've got your email address, number one, because that's how I'm building my platform so that if YouTube ever goes belly up, I've got a way to contact folks and say, hey, my business is not dead here. It's still alive. It's just been moved over here or we're there. I also then can do business through that email ongoing by sending you emails. Hey, we have a sale on Flagship, something you might be interested in. Or if you've downloaded my app now you have my app. You can use that. You can use the fertilizer calculator in there. You could use the program in there. You can use the journal to keep track of things, take pictures. All of that is free to you to use. You can measure your lawn in there. There's a lot of cool stuff. So my job or my goal is to continue to provide value for you and then also offer you products that back up that value. And by the way, the products bring value too. You can criticize me all you want, but if you put Flagship down, your lawn is going to turn green if you water it in. Unless it's winter or the dead of summer and you're dormant. But if your lawn is, in the growing season and you put Flagship down, your lawn is going to turn green. It's going to turn dark green, actually. It just is. So the stuff that I sell, it works. Even if you put Flagship down, which only has 7%, Stress Blend down, which only has 7% nitrogen, guess what? Your lawn is going to turn green, dark green. It's iron actually works. That's why, right? So I'm just saying that I have things that I offer that provide value, and in return, I ask for an email address, and then over time of continuing to provide value, then I hope that maybe you'll purchase something from me, and a lot of people do. And then a lot of people are like, well, I like the whole idea of this, man. I like the idea of throwing down and being a bodybuilder and pushing my lawn, having the darkest green lawn, and dominating my neighbors and doing this. You kind of get into the hype of it because there's other people here that are in the hype of it too, and they like the same things you do, and we got the same fire in our belly. Right, where we want to get outside and we want to work in the lawn, and we want to keep it tight and we want to keep it green and we want to mow the stripes and we want to have tight, tall edges, right? Those are the things that we want. Those are the things we share. Those are the things that make this hobby so much fun. Now you got a whole bunch of education on the back. Y'all are using the same products, which are cool, which are like the cool craft beer, because these products are different. They're not like what you're going to get in stores, right? They have things in them that are not like in the stores, right? Plus, I'm going to give you all of the support on how to throw it down, why I told you to throw it down, what happens after you throw it down. You have a question? I have full customer service, right? American-based customer service. There's a lot that goes into this machine to keep it all going. And like I said, it's been super successful. Thank you to you guys. But that's content to commerce. But back to my original statement, which was to my friends that are influencers out there that are worried that TikTok left. And I'm glad it's back for you. I really am. But you got to find a way to get that email list. It's easy when you're an educational channel because you're giving something away of value that is education. Now, if you're an entertaining channel, if you're somebody that does viral videos, which is mostly what TikTok is, I know there's some educational stuff on there. I know there are. I've gone down the rabbit hole of the people arguing about the Bible on TikTok. Boy, that's a fun one about the amillennial, premillennial, repent for salvation, no need to repent, turn from your sin, all kinds of stuff, right? Fun stuff. So there is a lot of educational stuff, debate stuff on TikTok, but I believe it is difficult to get people to, to engage off the platform. I think people that are on TikTok, they just doom scroll on TikTok. So they're not going to get off. Whereas with YouTube, shorts, no. But with long form YouTube, when you have that big old description down there, it's very easy for people to click and to go to your store. And they have great integrations now. TikTok has integrations too, but only in the last like 2 years, and they're definitely not dialed in. YouTube's integrations have been in for a while now, so they're dialed in a much better. It's just easier to build on YouTube long form content. The thing about that is it's hard to do viral videos in long form content. They're made for 60 seconds, right? So to do long form content, you have to have more to say. And I'm afraid some of you probably don't have enough to say, which is maybe why you don't do, and that's fine. You're more on the viral video side. So you got to find something that you can give away or offer or do in order to get that email list. Now, that's also going to require that you invest in some software, whether it's like some Aweber, some Constant Contact, Klaviyo, whatever it is, you're gonna learn that. And then sometimes if you can't DIY all that software, and then by the way, it's not like you just get the list. You have to cultivate a list. You can't just get all these emails and let them sit. No. The list is just like a living thing. That's why you have to segment it. You have to feed that list with good content or something of value, even if it's just once a month. You got to keep something going to it. Otherwise, there's quality scores in these. There's a lot of things. So it's a big commitment, which means you might have to hire more people. And so now we get into a whole nother thing. And this is a whole nother reason why a lot of influencers never really get to a certain point, is because they're lone wolves. Now, I'm definitely a lone wolf. This has been the hardest, most uncomfortable thing for me to do, is to have employees and stuff. When I worked in someone else's company, it was fine. No problem. You're in charge of everything. I had teams, and I was a very good team leader. Don't get me wrong there. But I wasn't ultimately in charge of people being able to cash their check and eat and have their kids go to college and that kind of stuff, right? So you get to a different point. I'm a lone wolf. I would rather just do everything myself. But I've had to learn, no, you got to bring on partners that do things you don't, that have strengths that you don't. You got to learn to work with them. And I'm very fortunate. I have great partners. We have great associates that work with us. I mean, incredible, nice, tight team that we're a well-oiled machine. That I'm very blessed in that way, that I've had people come to work with me and around me that can tolerate me. But anyway, some of y'all are unwilling to do that or unable, or some of you're just young and you don't really know how business works. You don't even know how to approach somebody and say, hey, I have problems with accounting. There's this state sales tax thing that I need to overcome or understand. You don't even know how to ask those questions, right? You don't even know. It's just you could get the wrong business partner and get scammed. It's tough. I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad was a fireman. My mom was a school teacher, so I didn't learn anything about business, how business works. Even to this day, the way a P&L operates seems like some sort of weird bullshit to me. About accruals and all this kind of garbage. No, man, you should just pay cash for everything. You want a bill, I'm going to pay you cash. That's it. No, it doesn't work that way. S corps, C corps. Oh boy, I'm going to start sweating thinking about this stuff. So there's a lot of things that the state sales tax, another one. I brought that one up. We were able to get in early because I have a good accountant. Again, very good accountant that got me in early years ago with state sales tax. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you are an influencer and you're selling something that is being shipped and you're taking the money, you better look at your state sales tax for all states so if you ship to the lower 48, you better look. You better make sure that you haven't had nexus in any of these states. Something we learned about years ago before we got too big and we were able to get in on top. But I'm telling you, state sales tax is a whole nother thing. I have to have, just so you guys know, I have an entire accounting firm. Now, they're not one of the there's big firms, there's like the big three, and then there's like a second tier of big firms. They're a second tier big firm. I ain't big enough to have the big boys. They're a second tier big firm out of Tampa, and all they do is handle my state. We have to file currently in like 42 states, I think. So they handle that because every state has different laws when it comes to sales tax. Remember, sales tax is something that is collected by the business. So when you go to buy a car at a local car dealership, they are going to collect sales tax on that car purchase, and their job is to remit the sales tax to the state. It is a pass-through cost. The dealer doesn't make anything on it. It's a losing battle for the car dealer because he's got to shuffle the paperwork, which costs money because employees have to do that. So state sales tax collection is a loser for all businesses. It's a pass-through, okay? And it's easy when you have one single store which is called Nexus, in a state that you operate in and you only sell inside that state, no problem. You just learn your own state sales tax laws and you do it. But when you're an e-commerce business and you're based in Florida and you sell out into other states, that's something that's only been tackled by law in the last 4 or 5 years or so. I think it was Wayfair. There was a decision on Wayfair like 5 or 6 years, maybe 5 years ago. That's what changed the whole thing, a court decision, to where now you could have Nexus, or it could look like you have a presence in a state, which means you need to start collecting state sales tax there. I'll give you a prime example. If you have an Amazon, if you have stuff on Amazon, let's say that, and we are all fulfilled by merchant. We don't send anything to Amazon because I don't want them with their grubby paws on my product, because I've already seen what they did to me with Hydrotane. Screw you, Jeff Bezos. Eat it. But if you're fulfilled by Amazon, that means what you're doing is you're shipping product to an Amazon center, fulfillment center, and then they spread it out all over the country based on their algorithm and that type of thing. So you might send, say, 10,000 units to one spot, and they'll spread them out to, say, 50 warehouses around the country because they have an algorithm that knows where people are going to order this thing. Okay, well, every time it goes to one of those new warehouses, that's your product that you're paying for, you just developed Nexus in that state. The state considers that you have now a presence there. Even though you only might have 2 items sitting in an Amazon fulfillment warehouse in that state, they consider you to have a presence there, and now everything you sell into that state, you have to collect state sales tax on. Another thing that could be, it can be revenue-based. Some are revenue-based. If you're selling less than $100,000 into the state, you don't have to collect sales tax. But as soon as you go over $100,000, you do. Well, guess what? They're not all $100,000. Some states are $1, some are $500,000, some are $1 million. How are you going to learn all that? You got to hire a very expensive firm like I do. So this is what happens as you grow a business, things that you have to start thinking about, some things you have to start learning, things that start costing you money. Like I said, so that firm, they cost me about $60,000 a year to do a pass-through cost for 42 states. $60,000 a year it costs my business to pay this firm, this tier 2 firm, to make sure I'm compliant in the 42 states that I'm required to collect state sales tax in. I don't make any money on state sales tax. It's a pass-through cost. It costs me $60,000. So just think about it. This goes, you want to get on politics, buddy. You want to start talking about some regulation. You want to start making business go. Get rid of the freaking laws and the regulation and let us do what we know how to do. Anyway, if you're an influencer, I hope this has helped you. I hope it hasn't scared you. I've overcome this. I have no college degree. I'm a guy with a high school diploma. Well, I have a 2-year degree from a junior college, so you can count that. It was just like my senior year over again 3 times, 2 times. That's what it felt like, okay? But I'm not some educated guy. I was in the Air Force. I went to a cult college in Northwest Indiana where I learned how to be a Baptist screamer, bang on pulpit. So I don't have any real education is what I'm saying. And definitely no education in business besides what I learned at True Green, which was actually very good. But there you have accounting people that handle all that stuff. You're just in charge of making the decisions on the P&L, which I ended up being very good at. When somebody else is handling all the paperwork and all the laws and all the paper shuffling part of it, and all I have to do is look at my line items and understand what my budget is, what my incoming expenses are, I'm very good at making those decisions, and I made big bonus when I was a GM. So I turned out to be good at that, not at all the rest of it. All I have to say, when you're an influencer, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of things to figure out, and there's no book that's going to tell you how to run this business. But there is a lot of information you can learn online, but most of it you need to learn by trial and error. And if you do have somebody in your family or somebody you know that's just good at business in general, not the nuts and bolts of business, but the decision-making part of business, the wisdom, the foresight, the looking at lag and lead measures to bring out some Franklin Covey stuff. That is a mindset, that is a way of thinking, and that is what will keep you safe as an influencer in today's business. And again, we call it content to commerce, influencer-led business, however you want to do it. So there you go. There's a little ramble for you. I hope that was helpful to you in some way. Hope it was something. It's January. What else are we going to hear? Let's go now into the final segment of this podcast, which is where I'm going to talk about the biostimulant pack versus the 2 new products we have, which is the compaction cure, which I call the super biostimulant, and the spoon juice. So let's go to that segment now. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 2 new biostimulants that we released as a part of the Yard Mastery program. In the past, if you've been on the program, you'll know that all of the programs have fertilizers, pre-emergence, and then biostimulants. That's kind of the core of our program, and we recommend those throughout the year based on soil temperatures, grass type, and a number of other factors, as well as those of you that have our custom soil test and you have that data inside of the Yard Mastery app, you get a specific fertilizer program based on the results of those tests. Now, the biostimulants, though, they're going to be the same for all programs because biostimulants are primarily designed for the soil. And in the past, we've had 4 different biostimulants that you'd see recommended throughout the year. You'd see Humic 12, which is primarily humic acid, and you would see Aerate, which is what we call our liquid aeration. Those 2 would typically be recommended in the spring and the fall. Then in the summertime, you'd be recommended Microgreen, which had some biostimulants in it, as well as micronutrients, a great summer product. And then all throughout the season, I always recommended RGS, root growth stimulant, which was a combination of humic, fulvic, and sea kelp biostimulants. Those are the 4, and those are what we've recommended and used all along. And in fact, when I first started using the biostimulants from Greene County Fertilizer in 2018, that was the biostimulant pack. Those 4 elements there, or those 4 products, those are the biostimulants that we've always used in all of our programs, and they've always delivered excellent results. The thing about it is having 4 biostimulants, along with fertilizers being recommended and pre-emergence, as well as moisture management in the summer, it gets to be a lot of different products for someone to juggle. And so I've been looking for a way to consolidate the biostimulants, and working with John Perry, he's the owner of Greene County Fertilizer. He was able to help me consolidate those 4 biostimulants down to 2. And we also got a little something extra. So what I wanted to do in this video today was just kind of compare that, because a lot of people ask, Alan, hey, I really like the biostimulant pack. I like the way it's gone, but I'd like to see how do these new ones compare? Am I losing anything? Am I gaining anything? What are the differences? And so that's what we're going to go over today. The 4 biostimulant pack, how does it compare to the current offerings here in 2025, which is going to be Compaction Cure and Spoon Juice. So let's go into it. So what I'll do is I'll just pull up the labels on the screen. And so the way the programs are going to work is you're going to be recommended Compaction Cure. That's now. You're going to be recommended Compaction Cure biostimulant. I call it the super biostimulant. You're going to be recommended that here in the spring and again in the fall. So a couple applications in the spring and then a couple in the fall of the Compaction Cure Super Biostimulant. The Compaction Cure, the first thing it does is it replaces the liquid aerate. It's 100% 1-for-1 replacement. There's potassium hydroxide in there. That's when I always say liquid aeration breaks bonds. That's what the potassium hydroxide does. It's an extreme base, and when it hits water, it causes a reaction. An ion comes off. That's the breaking of the bond. That creates space. And then, of course, that's what we want with a liquid aeration is we want space created so the other elements can then, get roots to get in there, get fulvic and humic to drop in there, right? Creating space, adding carbon to the soil. That's the whole thing. That's the whole biostimulants in a package. That's the whole idea. Well, it's the potassium hydroxide that breaks the bonds to create the space. It's another reason why we always say when you apply liquid aeration or compaction cure, you want to have water or soil moisture present. You want to have soil moisture there because it needs water in order to make that reaction. So that's the first thing. Is the liquid aeration is replaced completely by the compaction cure because we got the potassium hydroxide in there plus 8% humic and 4% fulvic. That's a 1-for-1 replacement. So if you're using compaction cure, there should be no more need to use liquid aeration or liquid aerate. Now, you can go ahead and use up your liquid aerate. Obviously, the stuff isn't bad. And by the way, we're still going to be carrying all of the old products because a lot of people like them. And like I said, they're not bad products. They're awesome. Some people like them to be standalone like that. Some people will like using 4 different products. Great. We will always carry those. They're awesome products. So if you do have some liquid aerate left over, please go ahead and use it up before buying something new. Okay, next we'll look at the other springtime application that I recommended in the old product. That was the Humic 12. Now, that's just a straight 12% humic acid. There's a slight amount of potassium hydroxide in there as well, but this one really is just about humic acid, and it's just about getting it in. Now, you'll notice that the compaction cure, again, it has 8% humic and 4% fulvic, and that illustrates what I've always said. There's a lot of overlap in the program. In the original 4 biostimulants, there was always overlap. There was a couple of them that had kelp, for example. The RGS has kelp, and the microgreen had kelp, right? So there was overlap there. All of them have humic in them. A couple of them have fulvic in them. So there's like overlap, right? So one thing by consolidating down to 2 is we're doing away with the overlap, but that also might mean a little bit less pounds on the ground of actual humic in the new program. That's okay. You can still apply compaction cure more than I recommend if you think you want more humic or fulvic, but you will see overall you're going to have a little bit of a reduction in humic and fulvic and also in kelp, although all those elements will be there. So let's go back to it. Humic 12 was just straight humic. There's already humic in the compaction cure, so that does replace that, even though probably a little less volume, okay? Next, the RGS, root growth stimulant. RGS was recommended every month all year long. It wasn't just a spring or a summer program or a fall. It was all year long. RGS is my favorite of all the biostimulants in the old pack, and it stands for root growth stimulants, and it's humic, fulvic, and sea kelp. And that's why I recommended that one year-round, because I like the sea kelp to be there year-round for rooting. That's just one of the things that I think is the secret to our program, is actually the sea kelp that's pushing that rooting all season long, always pushing more roots, right? More roots can do what? Retain more moisture. They cycle better, so you're going to get better soil structure over time. Lots of things that thick roots do. They go deeper where it's cooler. They can get to moisture that's in other places. So there's a lot of reasons to have a lot of roots, and that's why I always like kelp in every single application. So RGS, humic, fulvic, and kelp. If you go back over to compaction cure, you will see that we do have the Ascophyllum nodosum there. That is the kelp at 1.25%. Now, you'll see compaction cure has it at 1.25%. RGS had it at 3%. So again, a little bit of a reduction there. And you're not getting, once again, the overlap again with RGS. RGS would overlap again with more kelp and more fulvic. We have all that in the compaction cure. All right? So that's the thing. The compaction cure can replace all three of those. Now, let's look at the other one, the spoon juice. Now, this one is a new one this year, and we're going to be releasing this one for summer. This is an excellent summer biostimulant. Now, I snuck a little nitrogen there. By the way, spoon juice has been out for a while. It's just been in single gallons. Those of you that have used it, you know how awesome it is. Just ask anybody that's used spoon juice. Like, this is the ultimate, just spray anything, anywhere. I mean, put this in your potted plants, put it on in your vegetable garden, little spoonfuls here and there, man. Just spoon this out everywhere. That's the idea of this one. And so it's great for summer on all grass types, because it's not going to stress anything out. It's not going to push growth where it's not wanted. It does have foliar absorption. Even when you do it through the hose and sprayer, you'll still get a little bit, but it acts very quickly. It also has some iron in it, which gives us the deeper, darker blue-green color we want. But let's go into it, because this is a summer product. And like I told you, typically my recommendation in summer on the old program was going to be microgreen. So what's microgreen? Well, that's our micro pack. It's got potassium in it, yeah, but it's got magnesium, sulfur, copper, iron, manganese, and zinc. Now, not all those are micros. The micros are the copper, the iron, the manganese, and the zinc, okay? So, but I wanted to point out magnesium, because magnesium it's a macro, but it is in that microgreen. There is no magnesium in spoon juice, but magnesium is in the Stress Blend granular fertilizer, okay? So some of what's being replaced here is going to be found in my granular fertilizers, because remember, my main program is not just biostimulants alone. Biostimulants are designed to support a fertilizer program. So I have the same thing. I have my fertilizer line. Our general program, the normal program that most of y'all are on, switches back and forth between Stress Blend and Flagship. It just depends on your grass type, where you live, and how hot it is, right? Sometimes you'll get recommended Stress Blend. Sometimes you'll get recommended Flagship. But Stress Blend has magnesium in it. So you're getting magnesium from your Stress Blend. So is there magnesium in spoon juice? No, there is no replacement there. It is in the microgreen at 0.5%. Okay, copper. Copper is a minor nutrient. I do not have a replacement for copper. So in this change out from the 4 biostimulants down to the 2, there's no copper. So if copper is your thing, if your lawn's perfect look hinges on copper, then you'll want to stay and keep with microgreen. You could still use spoon juice, but and I'm joking, of course, because no one's lawn hinges on copper. So we're not going to have copper. Manganese. All right, manganese and zinc. That's the other thing. All of my granular fertilizers have water-soluble manganese and zinc minor nutrients. In fact, you're not going to find manganese and zinc minor nutrients in any granular fertilizer on any shelf in America, I'm pretty sure. At least not something made for homeowners. You just won't find it. This is what makes my granular fertilizer special. One of the things. There's several things, but that's one of them. I got those minor nutrients in there. So are we losing the minor nutrients in the microgreen? We are, but we're gaining it because it's already in the granular fertilizers. All right. And so that's that. And then iron. We always like the microgreen because it had the iron. Well, spoon juice has iron, 3% iron, and in fact, which is the same. So the iron content from the microgreen over to the spoon juice is exactly the same. But like I said, the spoon juice also has that little bit of nitrogen. See, I always like my iron to have a little side of nitrogen, or sometimes my nitrogen to have a side of iron. I like those two to go together. You know what I mean? Like ebony and ivory. That's the nitrogen and the iron, kind of going together, causing that deeper, darker blue-green color, right? And that's what spoon juice does. Again, if you've used spoon juice, it's just awesome. Okay, so there's kind of the replacement, the in and the out. Overall, what have we done here? Because I'm always super transparent with y'all. What have we done? Well, by switching to the new biostimulants, going down to 2, it's simpler for you. By the way, there's one addition I haven't told you about that's in the compaction cure that I'm going to tell you about. One addition. But the one thing we've lost is the copper. And then overall, we have reduced the inputs of humic and fulvic, okay, because there's not as much overlap there because it's all into one. So we are reducing the amount of humic and fulvic. Are we still applying it in every application? Yes, we are. There's humic and or fulvic going down in every single application of the new biostimulants. It's just not going to be as much as on the old program. But I think most of you will be fine with that. You're still getting humic, fulvic. Remember, if you're using my granular fertilizers, I have Bionite in there, which is a source of carbon, which is a natural additive. So, we're getting it still. We're still getting it there. Now, here's the one thing that's in the addition, okay? And the addition is that the compaction cure has a co-block polymer. And I love that term, co-block polymer. It just sounds so cool. John Perry, again, founder of Greene County Fertilizer, has been getting into this type of chemistry the last couple of years, really diving into it and understanding the surfactant, wetting agent, penetrator market. He's been penetrating the penetrator market, John Perry has, and he's learned about this stuff. And so he's starting to formulate these in. And he said, Alan, we should put that in there because what that does is it just helps things to penetrate a little bit better, makes the water a little wetter, a little slicker, which when we're trying to get a compaction cure product, right, that's got the potassium hydroxide to break off that ion, to break those bonds, right, which creates space. That's what aeration is, folks, okay? Nothing more than that. Creates that space. Then we got humic and fulvic fractions to help fill in there, right, because we don't want the soil to tighten back up, so we'll get some carbon in that space. And then also sea kelp to get the roots going, the roots of the grass going, which also helps to penetrate that space. And then all of that, we're dragging water down, water penetration, because water's what's pulling all of it down, right? And so that co-block polymer in there, making that water slicker and wetter, pulls that water down better, deeper. It's a penetrator. It's a penetrant. So that's an addition that was never in the original biostimulants. And that's all because, again, John's just learning new things and seeing what he's understanding as he goes out and does research in the marketplace. Like he sees, lawn care operators, LCOs, they're called in the biz. He works with a lot of the LCOs out there and some of the large ones. You guys think, oh, John's this guy that, he works with the small businesses, the guys that have 2 or 3. He does. He works with those guys. Still does. Always has. But now in the last few years, John's been a little quiet. Y'all don't know. He's been going out there and really starting to work with some of these very large operations. Very is a technical term. Very large is really a technical term. Very large companies and seeing what they need, what they want, what their agronomists on staff, their PhDs, because these are big companies with big old money to buy big old PhD people. And they want to know, what do you want? What are you seeing? What do you need for your customers? And John's like, we can make that. And so this is just a small piece of that coming down to my DIY friends. And so that's another reason I'm super excited about it. By the way, now, what does that mean, by the way, that it's got that co-block polymer in there? It means it replaces foreplay also. Foreplay was never a part of our normal programs, but what that was a dry spot spray. So if you had like stubborn dry spots, you just hammer with that foreplay. Now you can use compaction cure, and it's cheaper. And so no need to buy and you'll already have it, right? So yes, you're going to spray it across your lawn and water it in. But the other thing you're going to do, if you do have dry spots, trouble spots, areas along the sidewalks in the summer that dry out, you can use this compaction cure like you would have used foreplay. So that's another thing that it does, another thing that it replaces. So there's a lot here. I was going to say something else, and I can't remember what it was. Maybe it'll come back to me, and I'll run it back. But there's a lot here, and I hope that this helps you guys. Oh, I know what I was going to say. These things spray great. through a hose end sprayer, because that's what most people do. You can put these through your backpack, and I recommend you do if that's something you like to do. I enjoy spraying and praying with a backpack for sure, but I also do like, that Thursday after work, sun's going down, I got a cigar, and I got my hose end sprayer there. I kind of like that too, right? Actually, the cigar comes after when I hand water it in, but I kind of like the hose and sprayer for the convenience of it. But this sprays really nice. Compaction Cure and Spoon Juice spray really nice right out of the hose and sprayer. The one thing we've always had a complaint with was microgreen was hard through sprayers, not backpack sprayers, but it was hard through hose and sprayers, especially cheaper ones. Well, any hose and sprayer, and that was just because there was a little grit in there. Because again, it had some. Maybe it was the copper. We got rid of the copper. You know what? For those of you that have been around since 2018, it's been the copper all along. The freaking copper's what's been causing everything, because that's the difference, right? I don't know. I'm just kidding. It may be. But either way, these spray like a dream, so there's no frustration there. And every one of you knows, man, you get out, you want to, you look forward to your spray time, getting out in your lawn, everything's there. And when you have sprayer problems, clogs, it just ruins it all. And then you're like, F this, dude. I don't want anything to do with it anymore. So there you go. All right. You can see, I love this stuff. I've been spraying these. They work great. I actually used Spoon Juice to establish my new Viridian sod because I'm using it just like RGS now. Since I'm going to have Spoon Juice on hand, I'll use it like that. So if you're again, a little bit of nitrogen ain't going to hurt your new sod. Trust me, brother. Okay? I promise you. But you got that sea kelp in there. And again, the humic and the fulvic. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope it helped you. Hope you like this kind of a little bit of a talk here on Yardmaster every once in a while. I do want to say thank you so much at the beginning of the year that we're doing this. We have really worked hard to get this changed, laid out. And again, I hope you like it. I hope you guys appreciate the simplification. But I want to thank those of you that have been here, even if you've been here for 10 minutes or you've been here for 10 years. Thank you so much for supporting everything that we do here at Yard Mastery. Thank you for supporting our growing small business. It means so much to me. And as always, I can't wait to see you in the lawn. All right, y'all, there you go. Hopefully this podcast has been enjoyable to you. Hopefully you learned a little something. I'll be interested to see what your comments are if you're watching on YouTube. When I went on that little diatribe about being an influencer, a business, and all kinds of fun stuff. Sometimes I like to get in here and just spout off. Today's a Saturday. And like I said, it's 60 out now, but it's still too cold for me to really be out there. So decided to come in the podcast studio here and have a little fun. Go off a little bit. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Hope you stay warm. Hope you get out on the lawn and get that fire in your belly going. And enjoy the most soon. I'll see you